We're saving a lot of time on site day one, where we used to measure on site with a laser or a tape measure and graph paper. So we're able to capture the whole footprint of the house, because everything done in Xactimate's.
Hi, and welcome to the Home Service Hookup Podcast. I'm Jonathan, and today we're going to be talking with Nick from Trident Restoration. And I'm really pleased to have Nick here to talk to us a little bit about his business, some of the things that he's done to grow the business and share his story. One of my favorite parts, as you guys all know, is learning about your stories and how you got started in business, what's been done, and then obviously learning from you in the process. So, Nick, welcome to the podcast. We're thrilled to have you. Could you give us and kind of start off with just a 30-second elevator pitch about who is Nick and tell us a little bit about Trident Restoration?
Sure. Thanks, Jonathan. Trident Restoration reopened about a year ago. Actually, today is our 1-year anniversary. Kind of hit us by surprise. We've been so busy. We're a water, fire, mold restoration company. Do the whole project all the way through completion. I've personally been doing it for really started in 2005, and joined the military and left for 13 years, came back, and 5 years ago started as a project manager, and then decided to open my own company a year ago. So that's, we've been busy from day one, and we're happy to be where we're at right now.
Well, wonderful. And before I forget, thank you for your service. My son spent 4 years in the military, but you guys have got a soft spot in my heart. So thank you very much. We appreciate that. But tell me a little bit about getting started. Obviously, it sounds like you were in the business before heading in the military, and then when you got back, you decided to get back in and start your own. What caused you to say, hey, I want to go out on my own and do this? And tell me a little bit about that process, if you would, Nick.
Sure. Yeah. I was working as a project manager at another company that was more designed for commercial, large scale restoration work, and we saw a need in the area for a more residential focused restoration company. So when we opened, we're really proud of. We feel like we're the most technologically advanced company in the area. We have the best equipment, some of the newest equipment, and we take great pride in knowing the standard to the T and following it right down to the T. So that's what we're building our business around, is following standards and the best technology.
That's fantastic. Talk to me on the technology side. It makes me think of tools and that. And tell me about some of the technology that you guys are using. And do you have a favorite tool set or line of tools that you like, you're willing to share, anything like that? What can you share with us about some of the cool stuff that you guys get to use?
Yeah, sure. That could open up quite a wide range of stuff for me to talk about. I could talk about it for a long time because that's something that we're really passionate about. But we definitely have really bought into the Phoenix drying equipment technology that they're putting out. We really like their dehumidifiers and their fans. I think they're the best out there, especially for residential work. And the technology we're talking about, we're really take great pride in our ability to capture the loss from day one. So we're heavy utilizers of the Matterport technology, which is a 3D virtual technology that we bring it back, we use it to estimate into Xactimate, or use Xactimate. We're certified in Xactimate for estimating. And then as far as the technology as a technician level, all of our technicians are certified through the IACRC. We have a master water restorer on staff. And everybody that we put on a job has had at minimum in-house training, if not IICRC training in person. So that's something that we take a lot of pride in, and we really believe in the IICRC's certification process too.
Oh, they've got a great certification process. I certainly know that. I'm really intrigued by the Matterport. I'm very familiar with that in the real estate world and how it's used there to showcase properties and that. Can you tell me, just out of the curiosity, a little bit more, how is that helping you in the estimating and the reconstruction and the restoration process?
Sure. for one, it saves us a lot of time. We're saving a lot of time on site day one, where we used to measure on site with a laser or a tape measure and graph paper. So we're able to capture the whole footprint of the house, because everything done in Xactimates is a sketch based off a sketch. So we're able to take that right out of Matterport and come in and put it right into Xactimate with very minimal effort from us, other than the scan and actually manually putting it into Xactimate. And from there, way our estimators utilize it in-house here is we operate on two screens. One screen is the Matterport tour and the other screen is Xactimate. And me personally, I actually have a third screen up with the standard on it on the third screen. So as I'm estimating, I can refer to the standard. I can put myself right into the house as if I was there, and estimate if I need to measure a window or something, a rough measurement, I could get right from that Matterport scan. It just makes our estimates so much more accurate than if off the graph paper, if you happen to miss one measurement, either you're going back or you're taking a guess. So we don't have any guesswork. We're 100% correct on our sketches, and we miss very little in estimating, if any.
But I got to believe that really helps the homeowner in making sure that you're getting them restored back to original condition, getting them back to where they want to be without missing things and getting into a project and going, oops, we missed that along the way. I got to believe that's just one of the things that really sets Trident apart from so many of your brethren in the industry.
Yes, and it's a lot of times we can take it a few steps further. We'll do multiple scans throughout the restoration process. So we'll have a pre-loss scan, we'll have a during mitigation scan, and a post-mitigation scan, and a post-repair scan at times. And even talking to an adjuster, as long as their company allows them to look at it, it's extremely helpful to them, especially in the, this post-COVID world we live in now. A lot of adjusters aren't coming on jobs anymore. If, I can basically stick them onto that house and they understand what I'm talking about. And the during mitigation scans, there's no question how much equipment I had there. I've got the whole 3D tour of every piece of equipment I had there and where it was. So that's another piece that's been really valuable to us. Justifying what we've done, we do it to the standard. We can justify it with this 3D tour and bill for it appropriately.
Yeah, again, I'm just thinking as a homeowner, the value that would bring to me, and knowing that with you being there, everything's documented, everything's being done accurately, and it really would, in my mind, tell me if I'm wrong, but it's going to minimize the ability of my insurance company to come back and say, nope, that couldn't have happened, or no, that didn't happen, or no, that's not normal, because everything's going to be there. It's all going to be documented. And that just, yeah, wow, that just strikes me as an amazing system. I love that. You mentioned something that I want to ask about, and maybe I shouldn't, but it's just my nature. You mentioned if their company will allow them, when you're talking about adjusters, if the company will allow them to look at the stuff. Why, maybe I should know this, but why wouldn't an insurance company want to actually see the facts? I'm not trying to get you to get in trouble here. I'm just
no, not
curious,
at all. It's a good question to ask. I wish I had 100%. I wish I knew the reasons.
Fair enough.
There's one particular company, and I'm not going to name them. It doesn't matter.
That's all right. No need to.
They have a general email that we send estimates to, so that should clue some people in on what it is. That it gets blocked when you send it through there, and it's kind of it's probably not Matterport directly related. It's more of a hyperlink in the email related than anything, because it gets blocked in their system, and then they can get it all. So there's some backdoor ways to get it to them if they really want it, which we've worked with a few that will take that. But yeah, it's something that they probably need to grow as a company and see the value of it. It's something that I generally don't charge for. It's something it's a valuable tool to us. I look at it as, I don't necessarily charge for going to a house to measure it. I kind of see it as the same way. It's extremely valuable to my estimators and a time saver for them. So There's times where I have charged for it if somebody specifically requests it,
Sure.
but to us as a company, it's worth the time and effort it takes to do that. So I wish I wish I knew the reason why some of them don't want that. I don't know what the reasoning is, to be honest.
Fair enough. No, fair enough. I appreciate
I
that.
think it's mostly a hyperlink issue with a couple of the larger carriers in the general emails. It's just a security problem for them.
Yeah. Well, large carrier red tape. I mean, we can all imagine what's happening. So, yeah. Well, I want to really commend you on that. That is, to me, knowing the technology a little bit, being familiar with it, thinking about that. I want to commend you, and not only doing it for your own internal savings, which I can see it would make you guys more efficient, and that's great. As we're building any business, efficiencies help us create more profit and more value for our customers. But that's really the key part to me, is as a customer, the value that creates for me and brings to the table, knowing that accuracy and the proof is all going to be there, gives me as a homeowner such incredible peace of mind. I love that. That's absolutely fantastic.
And yeah, that's probably one of the most common questions we get as we're signing a client and we're onboarding them into our process is, I think a lot of people, it's their first time ever filing a home insurance claim. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
They haven't filed an insurance claim and they're scared of the process because they've heard stories about insurance companies not paying for things, and it really puts them at ease when I keep some sample tours on my phone and iPad, and I show them, like, this is what I'm going to do. There's not going to be any question on what I'm doing. I follow the standard after that. So yeah, it really does put them at ease on a lot of customers that are new to this water damage claim or any kind of claim world, that it really puts them at ease, which is good on that process, because it's a stressful time for them, and it's just really helps with their nerves on the whole problem.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and one of the questions I was going to ask you today was, kind of walk us through the process of what you do to work with insurance companies to ensure that process goes smoothly. And in my mind, you just answered all of that. They had explained so much of it right there. So I think that's incredible. The huge value, obviously, is I'm assuming that you're working on behalf of the client with the insurance company to try to make sure that everything's restored as best as possible, and maximizing what that residential owner, property owner, can get back from their insurance company to get them as close to normal as possible. And that's really cool. Talk to me a little bit, Nick, about team training. One of the questions we get a lot is, how do you keep your team, especially with a company like you that's so focused on using technology to create efficiencies and value? How do you keep your team trained and up to speed on all of that tech, I guess, and the tools that you're using?
It's something that it's a hard battle for us to fight at times. We do dedicate quite a bit of time to training. I keep a small staff, and I think I keep a small staff of well-trained guys that are paid well. And that's, I might not be able to handle some of the bigger stuff because of that, but that's what we built our business around, is that mindset. So if that means I can't handle some of the bigger stuff, or I'm having to turn a job away because I'm swamped with other jobs at the moment and I just can't get to them, then so be it. I mean, it's not, as a business owner, I don't like ever turning work away. And, we always have a list of people that, they're on a waiting list if it's a cat category or a cat event or whatever. We just had the freeze around Christmas time this year locally, and we had a waiting list, and I only have 4 guys that work here, and I can bring in other laborers. I have other guys that we've trained, but when it comes down, I've got a core of a small group that knows what they're doing, and we don't venture far from that. And we also try to keep up with any reviews being done with the IACRC. They review their standards often. especially inside the office. The two of us really focus on trying to contribute to those standard reviews, being on top of what's coming out new with that process. And we're committed to continuing training, even on Master Water Restorer. I mean, we still have classes planned for him, just to continue his education, even outside the ICRC, which there's a bunch of other training we can do. He's recently gotten more focused on safety training. So that's another avenue that he's pursuing, that, we're continuing to find better ways that we should be doing things, and how to protect the homeowners and our employees better than what we're used to. So we're always trying to grow. That's always a focus we have, is when we sit down on the goals for the year, we're looking at, okay, what's our revenue goal? Of course, how many jobs do we want to do? What equipment do we want to buy? But a big piece of it is what training we're going to do this year. And that's whether it's in-house. We just did in-house training yesterday. We had a half a day of in-house training yesterday. So, and it was review. It's just, a lot of times it's review training, and it's just to reiterate, this is the process that we're following, and this is what we're going to continue to do, and this is the only way we're doing it.
Well, again, kudos to you. So many times when we talk to people in the home services business, they get started in the business because it's something they're good at. Maybe they've been doing it. It's a job. They want to create their own job, go out on their own. And while that certainly is great, and admittedly, it's part of the reason I started Valorous Circle, it's so awesome to talk to a business owner like yourself that also looks at it as a business and is obviously treating as such, and planning and making things go accordingly to focus on the business, because that's going to allow you to better serve your customers and, candidly, better serve your team long term as well. And everybody wins in that process. So I really appreciate you sharing that and how that works. Talk to me a little bit about communication. I know one of the things that so many of home services contractors, restoration contractors, everybody struggle with is communicating in customer service during the job itself, when that's going on. Talk to me a little bit, Nick, about what's Trident do to keep the homeowner involved, but also not too involved, because you don't want them looking over your shoulder every moment and telling you what to do either, because that makes you more inefficient. How do you walk that balance, and what have you found works well for you there?
Sure. We talked about client onboarding earlier a little bit. That's another piece, that when we're onboarding a client and to put them at ease in the process, is we kind of tell them that, we're ultimately working for the homeowner. We're not an insurance company. I'm not on any program work. I'm not working for an insurance company. But there's three parties involved. There's the restoration contractor, ourselves, the homeowner, and the insurance company. Ultimately, we're hoping that the money's coming from the insurance company through the homeowner back to us on a lot of these projects. So one of the key words I like to use is transparency. I never like to keep the homeowner out of the loop on anything that's going on. That being said, I hardly ever call an insurance adjuster. I primarily email, and it's always with a CC to the homeowner. It's because it's their vested interest in their home, what's happening to it. So scope of work, especially on repair work, we want them to have we want to have that transparency for them to see what's going on. And I'll get a lot of questions from them sometimes, like, is it looking over our shoulder? Sometimes it can be a bit much with some clients, and sometimes we have to have that conversation, like, let's figure out a scope of work, and then let's talk about this other stuff. And I think it's critical when you're onboarding to explain that to the homeowner. I mean, it's when we're onboarding a client, we're explaining our process, we're explaining everything we're going to be doing, but we're also prepping them for the whole process, what we're doing and what the insurance adjuster is going to do. And so it's an important to set the expectations right from the get-go. And that doesn't work with every client. Some clients think that they're my only customer, and that, they could call me at 9 o'clock at night, which I typically will answer, but, there's usually a conversation with them like, hey, everything's fine. this is what's going on. Let's talk tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, it's, and then in the insurance restoration world, the three parties, it can be difficult at times. But yeah, that's the onboarding is critical to us, and it's way we really focus on we're setting the standard on communication right from the get-go with them.
Yeah, it sounds like you're setting expectations really well up front, and that obviously makes a huge difference throughout the project. If for no other reason, just your ability to remind them of what the expectations were set up front and move forward with that. So, Nick, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, and obviously as we talk to other restoration companies and people in home services, one of the topics that I know some companies really want to avoid is anything in the biohazard area. And I know that's one of the things that you guys do. Can you talk to me a little bit more specifically about that and what types of things you're doing, and maybe even without too many gory details, any interesting stories that you have about jobs in that sector?
Sure. It's not a huge portion of our business. We are certified to do trauma cleanup through ICRC. It was a fairly new course 2 years ago. It was I was in one of the first classes for that certification. I'm really grateful that the ICRC finally published a standard for that industry, because it just went through a review process recently too, because there weren't a whole lot of regulations in that industry until just recently, and it's still fairly loose until that new standard comes out. I think it's going to come out soon. It was just up for review. I think it ended February 14th. So
okay, real new then.
Yeah, it needed updated drastically. But some of the things we've done in the past, unattended deaths, someone that lived by themselves, that they passed away and no one was home, and no one was checking up on them daily or something. So those can get pretty nasty. Usually some other problems in the home along with that too that we find. A lot of hoarding. We did one that it was a hoarder who also had the unattended death, and also had a sewage backup in the basement probably for 2 or 3 years. Oh,
wow.
So walking into the house, it was quite the scope of work in that house. We were able to fully restore that house, but it took quite a bit, and it was, even dealing with there's a whole nother challenging position in that from a restoration standpoint, because if they were the sole homeowner, even figuring out who the insurance company is can be a challenge. And sometimes we've done some investigative work and found a policy in the house or something that, a lot of times a relative or an acquaintance will help us figure that out. But they're a big challenge for sure. We don't see a whole lot of them. It's a tough cleanup. When we're training our guys for it, it's one of those few things where I will never tell one of our guys to go on it if they're uncomfortable. Luckily, I have a very strong stomach. It's probably why I'm decent in this industry. Nothing really bothers me. I step around in sewage with the right PPE on. It doesn't bother me. So doing some of those cleanups, I've done them by myself before, just because one of my technicians couldn't handle it. We did a school shooting a few years ago that a child had died on, and I ended up not allowing a few of our technicians to work on it. So that was tough, and it's something that you got to live with it after you're done it. And so yeah, it's an interesting part of our business. We don't do it very often, but when we do, we put the right PPE on and follow the standard just like we would any other job. So,
well, and it's important. We need professionals to deal with certain things in life, and not all of those are pleasant. And, I certainly can imagine, while I don't know any hoarders, thankfully, I've watched the show a couple times, and I can only imagine some of the scenarios that one might get into in a situation like that. And again, I'm thankful we have professional organizations like yourself that have standards that can be followed, so that there's some protection for everybody involved in the process. And I think that's amazing.
I think another
That's
important piece is empathy. I mean,
Oh yeah,
out of everybody that works here, I don't think anybody here has, they're very empathetic of everything. And even from the small little water damage on the floor, we treat it as if their whole house, to the homeowner's eyes, that their house could fall down from that. And some people are fine. But a lot of people that we run into, it's one of the worst days of their life, even for a small loss. And so when you talk about the trauma biohazard cleanup, it's even more so, just because there's usually a loss of life, or someone was badly injured, or that they've discovered a problem in the house, a relative that they didn't even know was going on. So
sure.
Empathy is a big part of what we do in that. So it's tough at times, but it's a big portion of what we're doing there is, understanding and not pushing the people. We're there to help, and that's part of doing the help. So
as you look at the industry, Nick, and obviously you're paying a lot of attention because you're contributing the standards and all that, what do you see, if you have any type of crystal ball, or if at least you can pretend you do for a moment, what do you see happening over the next few years? Any significant changes in the industry that you're envisioning, or anything that it might be coming down that the average layperson like myself isn't as familiar with, that you see coming?
Sure. I think I think there's a good chance the mold industry is going to change quite a bit in the next few years. Maghielse publishes their standard. I think everything that says, that we should remove everything, I really think that the encapsulants and everything have come a long way. We still follow the standard to a T. But I think the technology is catching up to, where we might not be tearing out as much as we did in the past. On a mold job, it's a lot of times it's a demo job with PPE involved.
Sure.
It's probably still going to be that way even as technology changes for the most part, but there's times where I think the encapsulants have come a long way, and I think they'll continue to grow. Some of the cleaning products, the peroxide cleaners and everything have come a long way too. Until it changes, we're going to continue to follow the standard, but I do think that there's a good chance the mold industry is going to change in the next few years.
It makes a lot of sense, and that's why I love asking, because I love hearing about what things are happening, either technologically or chemically, or however we want to say it, that are changing. It's one of the things that I can absolutely imagine that, if you could find a good way to encapsulate that mold and know that basically you were neutralizing any risk from that. In many cases, it would seem that would be far better than trying to have your entire team show up in PPE and remove and then restore everything. So yeah, very interesting. I appreciate you sharing that. So, well, Nick, talk to me a little bit about your area, because I want people listening to the podcast to know where you're based out of, and then tell us, if we're a homeowner on here, or maybe we're just another restoration company owner that doesn't cover your area, and we want to refer to somebody that knows what they're doing. What's the best way for somebody to get in touch with you guys?
Sure. So our office is located in Richmond, Indiana. We're located really right in the main area of Richmond, Indiana. I recall it a small town. It's 40,000 people probably here in Richmond, Indiana. We're right on Interstate 70. I like living here. We're close to Dayton, Ohio. We're close to Cincinnati, Ohio. We're close to Muncie, Indiana. We're close to Indianapolis. So all of those, that's going all four cardinal directions from us. So we can get to a lot of places within an hour. So we're able to cover a pretty wide area if we want to. We generally focus in the 30-mile radius of us, but, willing to travel if need be. Best way to get a hold of us, our phone number, 765-488-2178, or through our website. You can get a hold of us through our website. So that's the best way to get a hold of us.
And we'll put all that contact information on the screen as well, just to,
okay.
It's easy for people to get and that. But yeah, I know that was one of the things I noticed when I was looking up and say, okay, whereabouts are you guys at? It's like you're almost perfectly between, Dayton and Indianapolis and Cincinnati, although it's not necessarily a perfect triangle. It's like, wow, it's amazing how you're situated right there. So very cool.
My shop is 3 minutes from I-70. So, I mean, we're right on I-40 that hits I-70. I mean, I can be pulling the trailer down the road in 3 minutes down I-70 if I want to be going towards Dayton or Indianapolis. So we're in a good spot, to be able to hit those areas if need be.
Absolutely. Well, and I'm betting with some of their suburbs, particularly Dayton, some of those suburbs are really close to your half-hour mark probably by the time.
Actually, we have been doing a ton of work on that side of Dayton, the Englewood, Clayton area. We during the freeze, we did a few over there. We're getting to be known a little bit over there, so we've been getting some phone calls, just referral-based stuff over there. So yeah,
fantastic.
Not an area where I had really thought we would be, but it's a good area for us to work. It's our right clientele for us, and we've been happy to be over there. So we've been a little bit more involved over there lately. We've done a couple fundraisers and stuff over there. So
very cool.
We're really happy to be over there and working.
Absolutely. Well, last question, and it just happens to be as we're recording this, so by the time this goes live, this particular storm event will be long over. But I'm curious, in Michigan right now, we're getting a bunch of snow and ice, and it looked from the radar like that was a pretty wide-ranging storm. Are you guys getting any of that down there in your area, or are you
actually currently we have the garage doors open on the shop. It's 60 degrees. We were cleaning content this morning in the shop. It's fantastic outside. I know my phone alerted one of my friends is playing golf today, so
what a difference a few hours
down tonight. Wow. But we're not getting ice and snow from what I know. I haven't seen that.
Well, good. I mean, although that certainly can drive some business, I know it's certainly a pleasant thing to live through. So yeah, I always love to ask if it amazes me how different things can be in a few hours, drive. So awesome. Well, Nick, anything else you'd like to leave us with? You've been a great guest. I'm so thankful you've been on. Is there anything I haven't asked you that you think would be relevant for our audience to hear, or anything about Trident you want to share that I didn't ask?
No, awesome prompts.
Thank you.
I don't, I don't have anything else to add. I don't think you made it real easy for me. So,
well, I've loved having you on the podcast, and I really want to thank you for sharing some of the things you did about the technology you're doing and the standards and that. I love talking to home service sector business owners and hearing the different ways that they do things and the different way to solve problems and often get to that same objective. And I must admit, what you're sharing with me today, Nick, really resonates with me. So I really appreciate that.
Oh, yeah.
And look forward to hearing more about that as you guys continue to grow and have, I'm sure, some tremendous success. So
I hope so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, if you're watching the podcast today, we want to thank you for tuning in and joining us. If you're in the area, I really encourage you to reach out to talk to Nick and his team. I am truly impressed with them as I've gotten to know them over the last number of months, and talking to Nick today, really grateful for his time. And if you're interested in learning more about the home services industry, home services marketing, things that are happening and how you might be able to grow your business as a result, make sure to tune in for future episodes where we interview other successful businesses and home service business owners and find out what they're doing to serve their customers and grow their business. With that, everybody, make it a great day.